Good afternoon. My name is Minister Sherrod J. Glenn Sr. I am a student at San Diego Christian College, located in San Diego, California, under the advisement of Professor Lisa Christensen. Today I'm going to talk about my ethnology report, which is a requirement prior to my graduation. I did my ethnology report on the perception in the Muslim religion. Let me say this, that the news has been overwhelmed by the actions of terrorist Islamic Muslims, whom we know as ISIS or the Islamic State. However, there seems to be this blanket over the entire Islamic community that they are all the same, simply by the actions of a few. I've been taught many things, and that is that you don't judge a book simply by the cover. So I want to discuss with you a little bit about how our perception tends to make us think a little bit negative of the Muslim community. Perception, of course, is based upon a prejudice. And prejudice, of course, is a fear of the unknown. We don't know that much about the Muslim religion in order to accept them the way that we should accept them. However, the Bible says that we are supposed to love our neighbors and love our enemies, even though they may despitefully use us. The problem is that we decide that we want to protect ourselves so much that we forget about what we're being taught. Now, I realize that everybody is not as religious and may not be as religious as me or others, but I want to feel like I'm following Jesus. And Jesus, in the entire time of his life, never shunned any individual during that time. You know, whether it was Jew or Gentile, he loved them even the more. So at this point, I just want to continue on that we are believing things that are being told to us by many of the media. We don't know for sure, but I will tell you that I had an opportunity during the course of this report to speak with individuals who are of the Muslim religion. They're not just Arabic, they're not just from Egypt, they're not just from a certain type of country, but there are all types of Muslims. I believe there was an autobiography of Malcolm X at one point that talked about when he went to their Hosque in Egypt, and they're supposed to make one journey during the course of their lifetime, that he saw all types of Muslims, white, black, Arabic, and everything, and this is the same persona. We need to realize that it's not based upon a specific type of people. Muslims study the religion of Islam, okay? And because we don't seem to know, we tend to fear that religion because we see one side of it. The same way where somebody on the outside of a Christian church looks at it and says, hey, you know, they do all the backbiting and they do all this, I can do that out in the street. So I want to clear that portion, that we need to get away from the fear. Prejudice has been around from the beginning of time. You know, the big biblical worldview shows that you know, even in the Roman days, they would capture individuals and they would put them in the gladiator chains in order to get rid of them. You know, Jesus was unknown by individuals, and he was people were afraid of him as well, you know, because of his teachings. You know, and even to today, you know, you still have people who are afraid of African Americans, Mexicans, and Native Americans because they feel that there's something that's going on that they're going to take away from society. It's the fear that drives them. You know, my research was based upon that aspect, you know, not knowing our perception. The Muslim religion has been under attack from various sources because of that. You know, but however, what I found was that we don't veer too far away from the same beliefs that they fear, you know, or that they feel. You know, they believe in Christ. They believe in all the things that were in the Bible. As a matter of fact, the Bible is one of the things that geared them towards the Holy Quran. And while I went to the mosque to sit in and actually view some of the things that they were doing, what I found was that they actually, you know, they believe in the same things. Okay, the brotherly love. They get together and they pray. They pray what I consider even sometimes more than what we as Christians pray. While I was there, I got a chance to talk to the imam. The imam actually turned around and he gave me a free book. He gave me the Quran. You know, he wanted me to know a little bit more, to look through it, to see exactly some of the things that they believe. And what I found is that most Muslims desire to live in peace and abide by the natural contents of their religious faith. They want to be treated the same, reasonably and fairly within their community, and no matter where that may be. Okay, but however, the acts of a few radical individuals seem to blanket all of their religious beliefs because of the fact that people see the actions of a few and they say, oh, everybody must be doing the same exact thing simply because they study that religion. Let me tell you that a lot of those individuals are believing what they call in a jihad. Okay, that jihad is supposed to be a part of their Muslim faith. Okay, they're supposed to fight or struggle, but it doesn't necessarily mean a violent struggle. It just means that they're supposed to fight to maintain their religious belief. Okay, but you have some that have taken it to an extreme to believe that they need to get rid of all of their enemies and all of their anybody that's going against what they believe. Now, according to the Islamic law, it's lawful for them to wage war on 4 types of enemies: the infidels, the apostates, the rebels, and the bandits. However, only the first 2 really count. Okay, so you have a lot of situations where you know there's a misinterpretation of things, and we are as Christians are sometimes guilty of misinterpretations until it's explained and we understand. Okay, those that are killed in the jihad are considered to be martyrs. So that's why sometimes you'll find when you see somebody who's willing to do a bombing, they don't seem to have a problem with it because they believe that in the afterlife they're going to live on. Okay, let me tell you that many Muslims follow the true beliefs of the Quran, but they're not radical. Okay, a lot of the stuff that you hear is about half-truths that have been used to justify their jihads. Okay, Muslims face difficulties in America's predominantly Christian society, which is supposed to be about love, and it's supposed to be about bringing people together. You know, my Bible says, love your neighbors and, you know, love your enemies. And everything about it, even Jesus included all that. There's supposed to be an inclusion of all the stuff. But what I find is that we tend to, when we don't know enough, we tend to push people away. As I was reading, Gandhi indicated national polls show that 4 in 10 Americans have an unfavorable view of Islam. 5 in 10 believe that Islam is more likely than other religions to encourage violence, and 6 in 10 believe that Islam is very different from their religion, even though 7 in 10 admit that they know very little about Islam or the Muslim people. Okay, and Muslim people, Muslim Americans share the same economic characteristics with us, who tend to be Christians. Okay, Christianity just has many theologies, denominations, and sects And so it is the same with Islam. I got an opportunity to spend some time with a local uh, uh, Islamic center in Lumberton, North Carolina. Got a chance to speak to the imam. He was very, very gentle. We spoke on many levels. We talked about the differences in our belief. There was much respect across the board. Okay. What I did was I asked if it was okay to speak to a couple of his individuals. I gave them a survey. I printed out those surveys, gave it to them, and I asked them specifically, and of course, I got their permission. Specific questions. Most of the questions started off with generalizations, such as, how long have you lived in the United States? A lot of them have been in the United States since birth. Some of them migrated over to the United States, and then it went on. I did ask, as the questions went on, I found out that some of them converted over to Islam while they were here. Okay, they weren't satisfied with some of the religious or some of the religion that they were receiving. So of course they decided that they wanted to go to the Islam portion. I asked if it was because of their parents. Nine of the 15 participants said that no, that it was part of because of their parents, and some said that it was not. I did speak to one individual, and I will not indicate his name. They indicated that that they felt that they were being persecuted because of their religion, and not because they were just because of their religion portion. I did ask a participant if they felt that they were denied their right to study or worship while employed, and 14 of those people indicated that they have never been denied, which means that the employers really do a good job of not denying. But in fact, one indicated that the employer gives him specific permission to allow him to worship. And they were also asked if they had ever been detained by law enforcement or security personnel for wearing their religious garments. And 13 of the 15 indicated that they had been stopped or questioned by law enforcement. However, not in the local area. They were also asked if they had ever been treated differently, whether real or imagined, because of their religion. And 6 of the 15 participants indicated that they felt that they were being treated unfairly due to their religious beliefs, specifically during some type of travel time, like when they were on a plane, such as in a waiting area or something like that. All 15 participants indicated that they don't necessarily feel comfortable going outside of their religion, and that they would rather stay within their close-knit group. And they do have a very close-knit group. However, they are a loving group, and they're willing to accept anybody. Okay, they really want to be a part of the American society. Let me tell you that all my results showed that the participants had endured some type of prejudice somewhere along the line. And it wasn't because they knew the individual. It wasn't because they were party to anything, but based upon what was going overseas. They desire only to live their lives, to adapt to the way of living in the area, but to also have the freedom of their religion. The Constitution grants us that basis to have a freedom of religion, that there would be no disparity against that. But it doesn't stop people from fearing the unknown for whatever reason. Until you get to know somebody, it's kind of hard. They said that at one point, living in their community, they have never been You know, they have never been approached to join any crazy group, or you shouldn't say crazy, but any fundamental group to do anything outside of just living their life. They want to be a part of the community. They want to live and show that they can be an asset to the community. I reviewed everything with the research, and I saw that that's truly who they are. We deal with a large amount of fear when we walk out the door every day, even with the African American communities, with police shooting African American males. There's a certain amount of fear because of the unknown. Many Americans are convinced that Muslim Americans actually pose some kind of threat to the American society, or that there's going to be some type of change. Although we may feel that fear is justified, seeing that all that is portrayed in the media, what really has been done. Okay, yes, we do see some people who will carry out acts of what they call jihadism, but we have terrorists all over the place. So it's not always to be blamed upon them. Now, both Muslim and Christians claim to worship God and respect the value of equality. Muslims desire, once again, to be a part, above all, to be a part of the equality of life. There is God, merciful and compassion, and of course, a lower level of humanity. Muslims believe almost exactly that all humans are equal, irrespective of race, irrespective of class, irrespective of gender or nationality. They believe that we are all equal. So what I just wanted to say is that we need to get to know them first. We need to understand them. Here's a story in my conclusion. I was recently in a Hurricane Matthew's way in the Lumberton area. There was massive destruction, flooding, and many things. But what I saw was Muslim Americans helping as many people as they could. Yes, their mosque got a little destruction, a little bit, but they still had no problem helping their fellow Americans. They still had no problem lending a hand, giving to the community, and doing the things that we would normally do as regular Americans. So when the call is out, in essence, we are all the same. It doesn't matter about our religion. It doesn't matter about the color of our skin. It doesn't matter about any aspect. We all bleed the same blood. So if you get to know someone, then at that point, you'll be able to say that they are true Americans, the ability to go out and help one another. I thank you for your time. That's the end of my report, and I hope that this will garner a certain amount of listening, and I wish you well. I believe that God is going to provide you with a special blessing. Get to know them first before you make any type of judgment.